Good day, teachers. Today I'm going to show you how to use your online resources for advanced placement science. Now I'll be using AP Mater Biology as the example, but no worries, all of our AP Science courses work in a similar way. My name's Thomas Legale and I'm the National Advanced Placement Specialist. Let's go ahead and get started. First, we'll cover the agenda. The first thing we're going to look at is the class dashboard, followed by a single chapter overview, as all chapters work in a similar way. Next, we'll talk about the SmartBook, what is it, and how to assign it. And we'll end with creating a test, either print or digital. Now, everything we explore today is accessible from the website my.mheducation.com. Again, the website is my.mheducation.com. Let's get started. Now I'm going to go ahead and log in to the National Demo account, but if you look up here in the address bar, my.mheducation.com, let's log in. Here we are inside the National AP Digital Demo site. It's loaded with all the AP Honors and Electives courses that we have at McGraw-Hill. Now today we're going to explore using AP Mater Biology, so let's go ahead and click the Launch button. This first place we come to, we call the dashboard. Let's explore this page a little bit. So right here at the top right is the ebook and the SmartBook, the complete ebook and the complete SmartBook. We'll go into what SmartBook is a little later. Down below it is AP course and exam information. This link jumps you right to the College Board website to show you the needs, wants, and expectations of this particular course. Here's a digital start guide, which is kind of what we're doing right now, but if you need a refresher, you can click here. These two bubble or circular logos are for our correlations. It's correlations of our book to the latest AP College Board standards, where the learning objective is listed and the exact page and location in the book can be found. Now this maroon or crimson symbol is the complete teacher manual. I often like to tell teachers that this is a little daunting right here. It's the entire teacher manual. It could be 200 or 300 pages long. I'll show you in a moment a place where you can find a single chapter teacher manual that makes it just a little less scary. Okay? So over here on the left are some places that you'll want to explore. Gradebook is the place where I tell teachers to start. If you click Gradebook, it has you set up the grading categories, major, daily, test, etc., and walks you through that process pretty easily. The calendar is where you can see assignments in a calendar view. Assignments is where we'll be creating assignments to push out to the kids digitally. Roster, you can adjust or modify your student roster. Reports is where you'll get data from when students complete separate assignments. And assessments is our test generator, and we'll certainly go into that at the very end. So I like to tell teachers that this dashboard button is kind of like a home button. If you're ever lost or confused or don't know where you are, you click the dashboard and it brings you back right here. So now we're going to jump in and explore a single chapter. So here in the middle of the page at Browse Your Course, we're going to click the arrow. Click the arrow for Browse Your Course. Next, we'll click the arrow next to AP Core, and it opens up all the units of the book. And we'll go ahead and look at Unit 4, and we'll click into Chapter 20. So we'll click the words Chapter 20. And now we're going to jump into Chapter 20. Now, one thing that's important to understand is once you get the visual vocabulary of a single chapter, you'll understand any chapter. So here at the top is Show Chapter Info, and there's tabs that open up across the top. AP Chapter Overview and Key Concepts, you can read that. Teaching the chapter, some hints and tips about teaching this chapter. AP Suggested Assignments, which we will have given you. Benchmarks, and this is where the latest College Board framework learning objectives are. So if you click them, they open up, and keep in mind, these tie to the latest College Board benchmarks. And here at the very end, it was kind of hiding, is pacing. Now, this is based on a 50-minute class, so if your classes are an hour and a half long, you'll want to divide this number in two. So, hide chapter info, and now we're going to go through these arrows down the right side of the screen. So, student resources, the ebook, and the SmartBook. And we'll look into SmartBook a little later on. But I want you to know, teachers, that the ebook is always available for every student, no matter what, inside of their account. No matter what you assign or don't assign, the ebook is always available. Next, the arrow on the right next to chapter assignments. This opens up all the assignments that we've given you for this chapter. So, again, it's about that visual vocabulary. So the orange up here is all of our test banks. You could certainly click assign and push a test out to a student, but I don't think you're going to want to do that. These are the test banks that we will draw from. Next is a PowerPoint. Let's click on it. I like to show teachers that it opens up in sort of a PowerPoint replicator or a viewer that is not exactly PowerPoint. So I think it's important that you either download here or download here, either way works, and save it to a folder on your desktop. And you will have it forever as a real, actual PowerPoint. So again, download this file here or here, and then save it to a folder on your desktop, and you can use it forever and ever. Now, one thing I do like to point out is assigning and adding to student page. Assigning and adding to student page. So a PowerPoint is a perfect thing that if you want to hand it out after you've gone through that PowerPoint for students that were absent or sick, you can just click this add to student page and it will put any of these resources right on their account. Now, you don't need to assign it because you don't need to see if they did it or interacted with it. That's a perfect example where we would add it to their page. Now, assigning is something that will give you some grading feedback, okay? So here's some animation activities. Now keep in mind, this is AP Biology and it has these resources. Other AP Science courses may have different resources, but they all work in a sort of similar way. So this you would want to assign because it's going to show them a video and then ask them some questions that you'll want the feedback on. So we'll click the assign button, and now there's the title. You pick the dates and times, you can do some instructions, and here you can pick which students you want to assign it to. You can create different groups of students, Group A, Group B, Group C, however you'd like to do, and you could assign it to different people. Now, I've seen people use those groups in different ways, sometimes for lab groups, sometimes for different learning level groups, and if they want to have an enhancement or enrichment activity, they could have a certain group of students that's given a special assignment. Here's where you'll pick the gradebook category, and then you'll click Assign, and it will be in the student's accounts. So again, to remind you, add to student page just gives them access to it. Assign gives you grading feedback from that assignment. Down here are some project-based scenarios. You'll see that they are PDFs, so if you want to open these and save them and print them, you're certainly welcome to do that. Or you could click Assign or Add to Student Page. Here at the very bottom is Teacher Resources. Now here's the answer keys for those projects that were just up there. Here's labeled and unlabeled art from the book. But teachers, here is where the chapter 20 only teacher manual is. So instead of like on the dashboard, a multi-hundred page document, this is just 15 pages. I often tell teachers to save each separate save each separate teacher manual into a folder on their desktop. That way you can access it without having to log into your account. So this is chapter 20, key concepts, key terms, teaching strategies, and right here you'll see we address the new College Board framework, teaching to the new curriculum, suggested approach. Ooh, I love this part. Students' misconceptions and pitfalls. I think that's really awesome. Okay, and you'll see it goes on and on. It is 15 pages long. I bet that the answers to the end of chapter questions are here as well. Okay, and that'll help you kind of tie back to the book. So one more thing that I'd like to show you is here at the very bottom, teacher added resources. This is a place where if you have an assignment that you love and have The next thing I want to cover is SmartBook. Oftentimes I hear AP teachers tell me there's a ton of reading, but they have no clue if the kids are doing it or not. Well, that's where SmartBook can be really helpful. SmartBook is a formative assessment reading experience, so while kids are reading, things are highlighted in yellow that they need to focus on based on the College Board framework. Every 9 to 15 minutes, it will then ask them questions about what they've been reading and then re-highlight their book based on mastery. Green for things they've mastered, and the things that they're still struggling with will remain yellow. Let's take a look. So I want to show you SmartBook, how it looks and how it feels, so that then you'll know the power of it, and then I'll show you how to assign it. So here we are in the Chapter 20 SmartBook. I'm going to click here the 4 squares so that it becomes a larger page for me. Okay? So if I continue forward, you'll see some of the yellow highlighting here, and that's a thing that they need to know to be successful in the AP exam. Now I'm always very aware and tell teachers that this is AP content, not really AP rigor, but it's nice to fill the kids' pockets with facts they need to know to be successful. Students can turn off and on the highlighting over here. We'll continue through. Just want you to see a little more yellow highlighting. It's really about focusing the reading experience. Then every 9 to 15 minutes, this button over here will pulse. And if the students do not engage with the practice button, it will start to talk to them and tell them that it's time to answer some questions. So let's force it to ask us some questions. Which of the following characteristics describes viruses? Click all that apply. Now I'm going to guess quickly, and I'm going to tell it my confidence level. This is one of the most important things about SmartBook, is that the student is having to engage with the computer and tell it how confident they are in their answer. So I got some right and some wrong. But look at this. This is that scaffolded supported reading experience. Read about this. And it jumps me right in the book where that subject is spoken about. We'll continue. Practice. We'll answer some new questions. Okay? I'll fill in an answer here. I think I'm wrong. No idea. Right? Virus. And I can read about it, and it will jump right back in the book where that subject is spoken about. Again, if a student masters something, it will change that highlighting to a green, and if they're still struggling, it will remain yellow. One thing I like to point out sometimes is that they can get reports on themselves. So this is a report about me as a student. So I can tell things that I've missed, learning objectives, or questions that I've missed. Now I know not all students would use this, but it's really cool to know that if they're going back to study for a test, that they can look at questions that they missed in the past. So I think you see the power of the SmartBook assignment. Let me show you how to assign it. Now teachers, you certainly could click the assign button here, but I often warn against that because it's going to throw all the content for chapter 20 at the student. And sometimes for certain chapters in certain AP courses, that's a little too much and can kind of put the students in a shutdown mode. So let's learn how to assign it in a different way. We're going to go over here to assignments, and then we will do add assignment. Okay, so we clicked assignments on the left, we'll click add assignment, and now we'll go to SmartBook. Here we go, SmartBook, and you'll need to choose the book, or like the question set. So we'll choose up here at the top. This is the book that we're talking about. Choose the title. Now we'll pick the chapters. So we're picking on chapter 20 today. We'll click that chapter, okay? And now you have some decisions to make. There's a couple things you need to be aware of here. So this chapter has 74 questions and takes an average time of 56 minutes. So you can do one of two things. You can either remove entire sections, okay, and chunk out this reading over 2 or 3 nights. So this would be the first night. You could do this the second night, and this is the third night. So there's 26 learning objectives here with an average time of 20 minutes. Now keep in mind, one student takes 20 minutes, but one may take 30 or 40, and that's okay. In fact, I love SmartBook for this. The student who's fast and just gets it and does this in 20 minutes will get 100. The student that struggles and takes 30 or 40 minutes will also get 100 because it's about getting the content in their head, not about punishing them for being right or wrong. In fact, if a student turns in a SmartBook assignment and allows a grade of 60 or 70, it means they just gave up and submitted the assignment without working through all the questions. Now, the second way to lower the amount of questions or time spent on a chapter is if all of these are clicked, you can use the scroll button here. And you see that as I lower less content or more content, that the questions, the items covered goes down, and the average time goes down. Now, what this slider or this toggle is doing, teachers, is removing just a few questions from every section evenly. So if you want to push the entire chapter out and you'd like it to take 40 minutes, then we would leave it here and we would create the assignment. So again, remove whole sections or slide this toggle back and forth. Create assignment. So now we're going to name this assignment Chapter 20 SmartBook Reading, and you could add instructions. We'll put dates and times, so this date has happened, and we'll make this reading due Monday. Now I want to show you something here, teachers. Visible and hidden. Visible and hidden. Okay, let's see. 14. There we go. Visible and hidden. I think this is very important to point out. So if you make something visible, the kids will see it in their account. If it's hidden, it will not be seen by them. Well, that just makes sense. But the way I like to explain this is if you like to do things and work ahead and work into the future chapters, you could make those things hidden, right? So we could do this chapter 20 reading assignment now, but then we could make the final chapter 21, chapter 22, and so on. We could make those hidden and then make them visible later. I always say this reading should be graded 100 points. What type of assignment is it? Who is it being assigned to? Okay. Individual student extensions, this if kids are absent or sick. And then share with Google Classroom. We'll talk about Google Classroom integration in a minute. And then you just click Assign. Now, to finish up, I want to talk about creating a test, either print or digital. So, a test is an assessment. So let's click Assessment. Next, you'll see these assessments up here. These are our test banks and your past tests that you've created. But today we're going to create a new assessment. So we clicked Assessment. Now we'll click New Assessment. We'll write here Chapter 20 Quiz. And we'll click Create Assessment. Next, I'd like to point out that you'll be drawing from our question banks. So we'll add question from question bank. And now you have access to all the test banks that are possible for this course. Okay, so I'm scrolling through them and there is a lot of them. Now, one thing I have to point out for a science course is there are some interactive question banks and then there are content review question banks. One thing that's important for you to understand, interactive question banks can only be viewed digitally. So that's if you're giving a digital test or a quiz. Now, if you want to print out paper pencil, you certainly have to go to these content review questions. So we'll click here to Chapter 20, and now it loads all the questions that are possible for this chapter. On the first page here, there's 20. Here, there's an additional 20 for up to 40, and on page 3, it goes to 59. So we'll go back to the first page, and we'll go to the top, and if you hover over a question, it shows you the prompt of the question, but not the entire question. So for that, you have to click the kebabs, excuse me, and click the preview button, and you'll see that it shows you the prompt and all the answers that are possible. So again, if you hover, it shows you the prompt, but if you click the kebab, it shows you a preview of the whole question. So you see this one's an essay question, so there's an image, and then the question, and then space for writing, okay? And this has, you have to describe what each different letter is. It's a lot going on there. So I like the first question. I like the second question. I don't like the third and fourth, but I like the fifth. And here's a part that teachers oftentimes don't hear me say when I'm in training. You have to click the Add button. So we click Add, and now I have a 3-question quiz over here. We'll go to additional pages, and now I like this question and this question, and again, click Add. You can also, teachers, go back here and change chapters and pick multiple questions from multiple tests if you're trying to create a semester exam. You also can go back to add questions from one of your assessments. So if you go to add question from assessment here, you can draw back from your past tests and pull questions in to create a true semester exam. Now the next thing I want to show you is creating your own question. So right up here, you create new question. At the top of the screen, you'll pick the type of question you're going to ask. Okay, now some of these are only digital capable, so it's important that you pay attention to what style of question you're asking. We're going to do essay, okay, and here I'm going to say, why is AP Bio the best? Question mark. You can change the characters of the words, you can upload files, hints, explanations, etc. Save. And now it added this essay question at the end. So I'll show you, you can drag and drop these questions around. If we wanted all the essay questions at the end, we would do this, okay? And that has the multiple choice at the beginning and the essay at the end. So teachers, if you were going to give this as paper pencil, you would just save and exit, and I would show you how to print it. But since we're gonna perhaps give this digitally, I'm gonna show you that experience as well. So we'll click continue. And on this page, you get to make some choices. So first of all, at the top here is what type of assignment is it? Exam, practice, homework, etc. In the middle of the page is some things about having good internet and don't use the forward and backwards button. But you also, teachers, can add some more instructions here if you'd like. Here's some tools that they can have access to. And oftentimes in a science course, sometimes the calculator is good. Calculator, and do we want a scientific one? There you go. The kids will have access to it. And in the middle of the page here, at the bottom, of the page, are some display options. The one I think is important for giving tests or quizzes digitally is this randomized question order. So everyone in the class will get the same questions. They'll just be in a different order. And now we'll save and exit. So let's take a look at that quiz and see about assigning it either digitally or printing it out. So now let's go into My Assessments, and here at the top of the page is your quiz that you created. Now here's one thing that you're really going to want to get familiar with is this kebab menu to the right. It's the 3 dots. It looks like a shish kebab. So I'm going to click it, and here's where you would assign it digitally or print it paper pencil. So again, assign it or print it paper pencil. But you'll see there's some other options too. Student preview, edit if you wanted to add or remove questions, or you could completely delete this. Let me show you how to paper pencil print it. So we'll go to print, and now you get to make some choices. The font size, down here is the different fonts. I always choose Arial because it's scientifically proven to be the most legible and understandable. Now we have some essay questions, so I say that we do the write-on lines. The show answer choice letters, so we're going to put letters next to all the bubbles. And then at the very bottom, teachers, is the answer keys. Print with questions or print just the answers. I'm going to do just the answers to save some paper. And now we generate a PDF. Generate. So it's going to generate a PDF. One will be the answers, and one will be the actual exam. Let's take a look. Here we go. So here's our 2 different PDFs. This is the quiz, and this is the answer sheet. So open up the quiz. Here we go. 3 multiple choice, and then here's the essay questions at the bottom. Then the next one is the answer sheet. Now remember, the last 3 are essays, so of course the answers will vary. Okay? I suggest that you save these into your desktop into a folder called Quizzes or Chapter 20 or whatever your system is. Now let's go through that process again. So you'll click Assessment, you'll click New Assessment, We'll give it a name. And remember, you're drawing your questions from our question banks. So we'll click Add Questions from Question Banks. Then you'll want to go through and pick which set of question banks that you're going to draw from. Okay, and this time we'll do Chapter 20. I want to show you the interactive questions. So Chapter 20, here are the interactive questions. So let's take a look at those. So preview, just want you to see what these look like. Okay, this is where the students will drag and drop these things into different places. Okay, and this can only be done digitally, teachers. Okay, so there's a bucketing question. Here's a close style question. Okay, awesome. And this is where they'll do drag downs and they have to pick the different answers. Okay, what's good is this is a little more tactile kinesthetic. They're actually having to move, use their eyes and their hand and the mouse, etc., to interact with the computer. Here's an image style question. Let's take a look at that. Okay, there's an image, and they'll drag these labels to all around to next to the things that are proper for that virus or cell. Okay, and so that's what those interactive questions look like. Let's see, I like 1 and 5 and 4, and we'll click Add. Okay, and now we have these questions over here. Now remember, this is interactive, so you can only give this digitally. So we'll continue. And now we get to answer some questions and give the kids some tools. Let's give them
The last thing I want to cover, teachers,
again.
is Google Classroom.
And then we're going to randomize the questionnaire.
So I'm going to go to the dashboard.
Save and exit.
Now this is a national demo account, and it's locked for being able to be Google Classroom integrated.
To the right,
but on your account, right behind here on the upper right, and there'll be a settings option.
It to the students.
If you go there, on the far left, it will say link to Google Classroom, and there will literally open a Google Classroom page within our system that you'll link your Google Classroom. Now, if you'll recall, let me click Assignments. If you recall, the shish kebab menu next to all of your assignments here, one of the options was share with your classes, copy to other classes, but also share with Google Classroom. So any assignment that you give can be shared with Google Classroom from right here. Now I want to close by saying that I often tell teachers that I've just shown you a lot just now, and the one thing I want to implore you is that you try the 1 or 2 things that you feel that you understand and that you would be successful with. I think the Smart Book is really a powerful tool that we have. It has the power and ability to change their grade in your class, but also their performance on the AP exam. So if you do only one thing, I would love it if you would do that. But the last thing I want is for you to try multiple things. They don't work exactly the way that you expect, and you shut down or stop using our resources. Really try to do that one thing with fidelity and then add another thing 2 or 3 weeks later. So anyway, thanks for spending time with us today, and you have a fantastic day. Goodbye.